The conference room fell silent as Amara's voice cut through the air like a blade. "We don't want outdated people in this company anymore." Her words echoed off the glass walls, and I felt every pair of eyes in the room turn toward me. 23 employees. Some I'd hired myself, others I'd mentored for years, all watching as my daughter-in-law delivered what felt like a public execution. At 65, I thought I'd weathered every storm life could send my way. I'd survived my husband's death, raised Mitchell as a single mother, and helped build this company from the ground up. But nothing had prepared me for this moment of betrayal. "Maureen," Amara continued, her voice sickeningly sweet, "your services are no longer needed. Please clean out your office by the end of the day." The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, the only sound in the suffocating silence. I could see Sarah from accounting dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Tom from marketing looked like he wanted to speak, but kept opening and closing his mouth helplessly. These people had become my second family over the years, and now they were witnessing my professional funeral. I stood slowly, my knees protesting after what I now realized had been a setup disguised as a quarterly review meeting. My hands remained steady, though I expected them to shake. Instead, an odd sense of calm washed over me. "Well," I said, my voice clear and unwavering, "I suppose that's that. I'll gather my things." Amara's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose slightly. I could tell she'd expected tears. Maybe begging. Certainly some kind of emotional outburst that would validate her decision to this room full of witnesses. Instead, I walked toward the door with my head held high. "Maureen," James from the design team called out, his voice thick with emotion. "This isn't right. You built this place." I paused at the doorway and turned back. "Thank you, James. That means more than you know." My eyes found Amara's, and for just a moment I saw something flicker across her face. Uncertainty, perhaps even fear. The walk to my office felt endless. 37 years I'd been with this company, starting as a secretary when Mitchell was just a toddler, working my way up to operations manager, then vice president. I'd watched this place grow from a small family business to a multi-million-dollar operation. Now, in 5 minutes, it was over. My office door creaked as I opened it. A sound I'd been meaning to fix for months. The space that had been my second home looked smaller somehow, as if Amara's words had physically shrunk everything I'd accomplished. I pulled out a cardboard box from my closet, originally intended for charity donations. How fitting that it would now hold the remnants of my career. As I packed, memories flooded back. Picture frames went in first. Mitchell's graduation photo, the company's first major contract signing, last year's Christmas party, when everyone still smiled at me. Each item told the story of a life's work being reduced to cardboard and memories. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. "Mrs. Patterson." It was Emily, one of the younger accountants, her eyes red-rimmed. "I just wanted to say this is wrong. Everyone knows how much you've done for this company." I smiled genuinely. "Thank you, Emily. But sometimes change is necessary." Even as I said the words, I didn't believe them. This wasn't about change or progress. This was about something else entirely. By 4 o'clock, my office was stripped bare. The walls looked naked without my certificates and family photos. I took one last look around, memorizing the view from my window that overlooked the parking lot where I'd watched so many employees come and go over the years. Amara was waiting by the elevator, arms crossed, a satisfied smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. "I trust you have everything?" she asked, though her tone suggested she couldn't care less. I shifted the box in my arms and looked at her. The expensive suit, that probably cost more than most people make in a month. The diamond earrings that caught the light just so. The wedding ring that matched my son's. "I do," I replied calmly. Then, surprising myself as much as her, I smiled. Not bitter or forced, but genuine, almost serene. "Good luck, Amara. You're going to need it." The something shifted in her expression. The confidence flickered, and I saw a flash of what might have been panic. But then the elevator doors opened, and I stepped inside without looking back. As the doors closed and I began my descent, I found myself thinking about that flash of panic in Amara's eyes. What did she know that I didn't? Or perhaps the better question was, what did I know that she thought I didn't? Sitting in my car in the company parking lot, I had the strangest feeling that this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. My mind drifted back to that spring evening 3 years ago, when Mitchell first brought Amara home for dinner. I should have trusted my instincts then, but love makes us blind, and Mitchell had been so radiantly happy. She'd been perfect that first dinner. Beautiful, charming, asking all the right questions about family photos on the mantel. But something about the way she'd said, cozy, when describing our home, with just a hint of condescension, had made my shoulders tense. Over the following months, I'd watched Amara systematically weave herself into Mitchell's life. She had an MBA from Northwestern, she told us, working in corporate consulting, between jobs due to philosophical differences with management. Mitchell had been completely enchanted, transforming his appearance, his apartment, even his speech patterns to match her sophisticated aesthetic. She has such good taste, he'd gushed. It's like having a whole new life. That phrase had stuck with Meg. A whole new life. As if his old life, the one that included his mother, wasn't good enough anymore. I was halfway home when my phone rang. Mitchell's number lit up the display. Mom, I just landed. I'm heading straight to the office. Is everything okay? Amara's been sending me strange texts all day. My breath caught. Mitchell had been in Seattle for a week-long business conference. He didn't know. Amara had orchestrated my humiliation while my son was 3,000 miles away. I'm fine, dear. Just had an interesting day at work. You should probably go straight home, though. I'm sure Amara missed you. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at the cardboard box, feeling the oppressive silence of having absolutely nothing I had to do for the first time in decades. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily Gu. Mrs. Patterson, after you left, Amara called an emergency meeting. She said you'd been embezzling funds, and that's why you were terminated. Everyone knows it's not true, but she made us all sign NDAs. I'm so sorry. The mug slipped from my hands, tea spilling across the table. Embezzling. Amara was accusing me of stealing from the company I'd helped build. I grabbed my laptop, expecting to find my access revoked. Surprisingly, I was still in the system. What I found made my blood run cold. A series of transfers from the company's main operating account to a subsidiary I didn't recognize. Small amounts at first, then increasingly larger sums. The most recent transfer, made just this morning, was for $50,000. But it wasn't the money that made my hands shake. It was the authorization signatures. Every single transfer had been approved by two people, Amara Chen Patterson and someone listed as M. Patterson. Secondary authorization. Either my son was involved, or she was forging his signature. The sound of a car door slamming made me look up. Mitchell's BMW was parked in my driveway, and my son was striding toward the front door with a fury I hadn't seen since he was a teenager. He didn't knock. Mom, what the hell happened today? Amara said you quit, but half the staff is calling me saying you were fired and something about accusations of theft. I gestured to the chair across from me. Sit down, Mitchell. We need to talk. I don't want to sit down. I want to know why my wife is telling me one story and my employees are telling me another. So I told him everything. I watched his face cycle through disbelief, anger, and something that looked almost like relief. When I slid the printed financial records across the table, his expression changed to shock, then horror. This isn't my signature, he said quietly. I never authorized any of these transfers. I didn't think you had. He looked at me, and I saw my little boy again, confused, hurt, looking to his mother for answers. But if I didn't sign these and you didn't make these transfers, then your wife has been stealing from the company and forging your signature to cover it up. The silence stretched between us as he struggled to reconcile the woman he'd married with the evidence before him. I need proof, Mitchell said finally. Before I can do anything, before I can confront her, I need absolute proof. I understood. He'd built his life around this woman, planned his future with her. What kind of proof? He looked up and I saw a hardness in his eyes that reminded me of his father. The kind that leaves no room for doubt. The kind that shows me exactly who I married. The call came at 6 the next morning. Mitchell's voice was hollow, distant. Mom, I need you to come over now. Don't call first, just come. And Mom, bring your key to the office. I need to get into Amara's desk. I found him in his study, surrounded by papers and laptops, eyes red-rimmed and hollow. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. Her real name isn't Amara Chen, he said without preamble, holding up a manila folder. It's Amanda Volov, and she was never between jobs when we met. She was fired from her previous company for embezzlement. The revelations kept coming, each one more devastating than the last. The private investigator he'd hired 6 months earlier. The fake pregnancy and miscarriage that had manipulated him into proposing. The real boyfriend she'd been with the entire time. The divorce papers were already prepared, claiming abuse and isolation. She's done this before, Mitchell said quietly, probably with both previous husbands. Find a successful man, marry him quickly, gain access to his finances, steal what she can while building a divorce case, then disappear with everything. At 7:30 the next morning, we arrived at the office an hour before anyone else. In Amara's desk, hidden beneath legitimate business files, I found a folder labeled Personal Insurance, containing dozens of printed emails between Amara and Marcus Webb, discussing their plans with casual cruelty. AEUAM is getting suspicious about the missing money. Time to accelerate the timeline. Make sure evidence points to him, not us. But Mitchell found even worse evidence on her computer. She'd been using his login credentials for the transfers, documenting his supposed abusive behavior, and preparing to frame him for the very crimes she was committing. At 8:15, we heard the distinctive click of high heels in the hallway. Amara was early, probably eager to continue her victory lap. Mitchell. Amara's voice was carefully modulated as she appeared in the doorway. What are you doing here so early? And Maureen, I thought we discussed that your access to this building was revoked. She stood in the doorway, perfect as always, but for the first time, I could see past the facade to the predator underneath. We need to talk, Mitchell said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Please sit down. What followed was a masterclass in manipulation meeting its match. Every lie Amara told, we countered with evidence. Every excuse, every attempt at gaslighting, met with cold facts. When confronted with the surveillance photos of her with Marcus, she tried to maintain innocence. When shown the financial records, she claimed authorization. When presented with the fake pregnancy documents, her composure finally cracked. You know what, Mitchell? She said, standing abruptly. You deserve everything that's coming to you. You and your pathetic, jealous mother. Her final cruelty came as she headed for the door. Oh, and darling, you might want to get tested. Marcus and I haven't been exactly exclusive. 6 months later, I sat in my restored office, watching the morning sun illuminate financial reports that showed our company not just surviving, but thriving. The federal investigation had revealed that Amanda Voloff had been running variations of the same con for nearly a decade, with victims in 6 states, totaling nearly $2 million in theft. Mitchell knocked on my doorframe, a habit he developed since we'd started working together again. Morning, Mom, coffee. He looked healthier than he had in months. The hollow, haunted expression was gone, replaced by something that looked like peace. The Henderson contract came through, he said, unable to hide his smile. They want us to handle their entire West Coast expansion. There was something else in his expression, a lightness I hadn't seen in years. I started seeing someone, he said suddenly. Her name is Sarah. She's a teacher at the elementary school down the street. We met at the coffee shop on 5th Street. He smiled genuinely for the first time when talking about a woman since before Amara. She's nothing like what I thought I wanted before. She's quiet, thoughtful. She makes me laugh, but not in that desperate way where you're trying to impress someone. It's just easy. He looked at me directly. I'd like you to meet her. I'd love to meet her, I said, and meant it. Promise me something, Mitchell. No matter what happens with Sarah or anyone else, don't let them convince you that your family is the enemy. What we have, what we've rebuilt together, it's worth protecting. He reached across the desk and took my hand. I promise, Mom. Never again. Later that afternoon, an FBI agent visited to update me on the case. Amanda Voloff was facing 20 to 30 years in federal prison, with the possibility of parole in 15 years at the earliest. The evidence we provided had been instrumental in connecting her to crimes across multiple states and helping other victims come forward. As I drove home that evening, I thought about survival. Not just of our business or family relationships, but of the ability to trust, to hope, to believe that most people are fundamentally good, even when we've encountered someone who fundamentally isn't. My phone buzzed with a text from Mitchell. Sarah wants to cook dinner for us Sunday. Her lasagna, she promises, is better than yours. I told her that's impossible, but she's determined to prove me wrong. I laughed out loud. The idea of someone trying to out me for my son's affection would have terrified me 6 months ago. Now it just sounded like fun. I texted back. Challenge accepted. Should I bring my famous garlic bread as backup? Ooh, definitely. And Mom, thank you for everything. He's standing by my car. I looked back at the building, where I'd been humiliated and vindicated, where I'd watched my son nearly lose everything, and then find his way back to himself. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new chances to build something worthwhile. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt something I'd almost forgotten how to feel: complete, uncomplicated peace. This time I thought with a smile. I'd start from a place of trust instead of suspicion. This time, I'd remember that not every woman who loved my son was a threat to our family. Some of them, if we were very lucky, might be exactly what we needed to make our family complete. The road ahead was clear and bright with possibility,